Right, good afternoon. Welcome to the board meeting of the Teachers Retirement Board for May 19th, 2022. I'm going to start by calling the roll. Thomas Brown.
Here.
Russell Buckley.
Present.
Allison Hirsch. Here. David Gazansky.
Present.
Phil Dukes.
Present.
I see you. And Deborah Penny. Here. Okay, so I'm going to start an update on TRS Operations from Kavita Conroy. Kavita?
Thank you, Patricia. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. TRS recently concluded an email campaign to nearly 23,000 members about contributing to the Tax-Deferred Annuity Program. TRS also recently concluded a mailing to 36,000 participants in the TDA program who are due a required minimum distribution for 2022. To date, 8,200, which is about 23% of these members, have already filed their RMD election for the year. Representatives from TRS will be attending the UFT's annual Spring Education Conference to be held this Saturday, May 21st at the New York Hilton Hotel. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is a report from the actuary. Mr. Actuary.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Since the last meeting, our office has prepared a number of fiscal notes. In fact, we're up to, I think, number 57, I think went out today. But we've done 6 over since we last met that relates to TRS, and I'll just briefly talk about those. The first one, I'm sure you're all familiar with, would increase the basket clause for investments from 25% to 35%. The second one relates to the cost of living adjustment. The way the cost of living adjustment works now for a spouse, if a member chooses an option, if a pensioner chooses an option that would continue the benefit to a spouse, such as a joint survivor, once the pensioner dies, the spouse is entitled to 50% of the cost of living adjustment that the pensioner had been receiving. This legislation would continue the same cost of living adjustment to the surviving spouse. So instead of half, they would get the full amount. Like a lot of these, we have, this is not the first year that this legislation has been proposed, so we'll see where it goes. The third one is related to Tier 6, and it would reduce the basic member contribution for Tier 6 members to 3% for everyone, instead of the 3 to 6% graded now, depending on salary. We had priced this out earlier as part of a larger Tier 6 omnibus type bill. As you can imagine, it's pretty expensive to only charge 3% to all the members. In fact, we had estimated the first year increase in employer contribution to be about $113 million for teachers. The fourth one is one that our office is not too happy about, but it would reinstate transferring reserves when a member goes from a city plan to a state plan. So just a little history, before 2004, anytime somebody moved, let's say from TRS to state teachers, not only would and if they transfer their time to state teachers, not only would their member contribution be transferred, but part of the employer contribution would be transferred, or their reserve that had already been funded for them would be transferred. In 2004, we decided that there's just too much administration of doing this all the time, back and forth. People go from state to city, city to state. So that requirement was removed, except for police and fire, that it still continued. This legislation would put this transfer back in place, except only the one good thing is would only be for those who have at least 10 years of service. So we wouldn't be transferring assets for somebody who only had a few years and moved up and down. But for anyone who transfers with more than 10 years of service between a city plan and a state plan, our office would need to calculate the amount of reserve that had already been funded for that individual. And then the systems would have to work out the transfer of those amounts back and forth between the plans.
How expensive is that?
Well, that all depends on how many transfers. What we understand is that the state, that there are more that go, and you probably know better than me, there are more teachers that go from city to the state than the other way around. And which is one of the reasons the state teachers are pushing for this bill.
Wow. Do you think it was 10 years because it was 10-year vesting before we got that changed to tier
I don't
six?
think so. I think it was just to eliminate having to do this for somebody who works six months or a year, or the de minimis amounts. So again, we'll have to see. These are all just proposed at this point. The last two are really the same. They're both related to World Trade Center. In order to be eligible for World Trade Center benefits, you had to file a notice of participation that you were down there helping clean up. The deadline for filing that notice is September 11th of this year. And this legislation would extend it to 2026, another 4 years out. So in case there was somebody who hadn't filed yet, they would still have more time to actually file if they were down there. And that's the fiscal notes for this month. If you have any other questions, let me know.
Mr. Actuary,
Yes.
when these proposed legislations come your way, do you have any idea who's proposing them, or do you just get a request that the work be done?
Now, we generally know it comes through a special mailbox we have, but it'll either come from one of the state legislators, from one of their offices. Sometimes it comes directly from Union. It can come from different places, but we always know who's sponsoring it and where it's coming from.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next is the executive director's report. And the first item on that is the next meeting, which it has been suggested the next meeting is to be held on the third Thursday of the month, June 16th, 2022. Mark that down. Next.
Just sorry, just
Excuse me.
point of information on that. We're doing a regular board meeting June 16th and we're doing an extra investment meeting on the 23rd. That was what we decided. We're
Yeah.
not moving it. Okay.
Next on these,
As long, no, I said yes.
It's been sent on everyone's calendar too,
Right.
so.
Okay. I just want to,
I didn't get
I
to
couldn't
decide
remember
this.
whether we were like
Yes.
moving the regular
Yes to
meeting
me
to the
is what
23rd.
I
next.
said.
If you find out for some reason it's not on your calendar, let me know.
No, I think it is. I'm paranoid.
next is the authorization of rebalancing of funds for the New York City Teachers Retirement System.
Please skip to the resolve.
Resolved that the board adopts the actuary's recommendation and authorizes TRS staff to effectuate the internal rebalancing described above in accordance with the recommendation.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kazansky. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any discussion? I'm sorry, anyone abstain? Okay, motion carries.
Next is a resolution for the administrative budget for fiscal year 2023.
Please skip to the resolve.
Resolved that the TRS agency budget for fiscal year 2023 shall include for the modernization, I skipped a resolve. Let me start again. Resolved that the TRS agency budget for fiscal year 2023, excluding modernization and Galeno, shall include an amount of $22,924,458 attributable to the variable annuity programs and loan expense funds, and $44,226,386 attributable to the employer for the total agency budget excluding modernization and Galeno of $67,150,844, and be it further resolved that the TRS agency budget for fiscal year 2023 shall include for modernization program the amount of $12,961,000 $961,800 to be provided by the variable annuity expense fund, and $5,038,200 to be provided as an administrative expense contribution for the total monetization budget of $18 million. And be it further resolved that the TRS agency budget for fiscal year 2023 shall include for Galeno work the amount of $9,361,444 to be provided by the variable annuity expense funds, and $3,638,756 to be provided as an administrative expense contribution for a total Galeno budget of $13,200,000. And be it further resolved that the trustees hereby authorize the executive director or her designees to expend monies out of such budget to fund necessary operations in accordance with the approved budget and governing law.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kazansky. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hirsch. Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question. Part of the budget included an increase in the number of folks that you are adding to the call center. You've given an excellent explanation as to why that is required, and we have no objection to it. I am hoping as a board member, though, that we could get updates on a quarterly or 6-month basis on how that's coming along, how much your time waiting has been cut down, and what your head count is in that area, if that's possible.
We'll be happy to provide the board with that information.
Thank you.
Great, that's a good idea. Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
May I make a quick remark, just to thank Rosa Polanco and her entire team, the amazing work they did with this budget, not only this year, but every year.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosa.
Next is the resolution to expand remote attendance at board meetings.
We skip to the resolve.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees, on behalf of itself, its committees and subcommittees, adopts the following. A quorum of trustees must be present at one or more noticed physical locations where members of the public may attend in person. Notice of the meeting shall state the physical location or locations where the meeting will be held, where in-person attendance is possible, and state that the meeting will include a video conferencing component and indicate where the members of the public may view and, if applicable, participate in the meeting. 2, a trustee not needed for a quorum may attend a meeting via video conference in a location that is not accessible to the members of the public under extraordinary circumstances, including but not limited to a disability, illness, caregiving responsibilities, and/or any other significant or unexpected factors or events. Should a trustee qualify to attend a meeting via televideo conferencing at a location that is not accessible to members of the public, they may participate in the meeting and vote. Should the board choose to use video conference in a particular meeting, it will include audio and visual components that ensure that participants can be heard, seen, and identified during the meeting. If a board member participates in a meeting by teleconference at a location which is not accessible to the members of the public, members of the public will also be allowed to attend the meeting by video conference. 4, public sessions of board meetings will be webcast for public viewing. 5, minutes of the meeting shall list all members of the board who attended remotely at a location not accessible to the public, members of the public. 6, meetings conducted using video conferencing will be recorded, and the public session will be posted on TRS's website within 5 business days of the meeting and remain available for at least 5 years. 7, procedures governing member and public attendance of board meetings via video conference will be posted on TRS's website.
Thank you, Patricia. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Kazansky, do I hear a second?
Second.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple quick questions. So this means that remote trustees can vote, but they can only attend remotely under the extraordinary circumstances, right?
They can vote as well,
Yeah. Yes.
but they need, oh, I thought you said.
Yeah, they can vote remotely, but they can only attend remotely under extraordinary circumstances. So
Correct.
me being safely ensconced in my office at Tweed would not necessarily be extraordinary. Does this apply to all the various committees of TRS or just the full board?
All committees and subcommittees.
All committees and subcommittees? Okay. I know you,
That's not how, I don't know, is Valerie, I don't know if Valerie's here, but
Renee's son.
Renee?
oh, Renee's on, because like NICERS is not necessarily interpreting it that way.
Well, we're going by Valerie's interpretation.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. I was just trying to understand
right.
whether that is the interpretation or
That's
not.
her interpretation.
Okay.
But Renee,
Yes, it states in here, it is, applies to all committees and subcommittees, that they will have the option of doing this.
So also, you can't have a committee meeting without a quorum in person.
And have this option for remote attendance under extraordinary circumstances.
Right, but if there are only 3 people on a committee, you can't have a committee, like, so, but you need a quorum in person for a committee meeting. Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain from this one. Thank you.
Okay, Russell Buckley, abstain. All right, thank you, motion carries.
next on the agenda is the calendar. And the first item is the approval of the minutes from the April 7th, 2022 investment meeting minutes and the April 28th, 2022 board meeting minutes.
Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes of the April 7th and April 28th meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hirsch. Any discussion or questions about those minutes? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? They are approved.
Next are the calendar items, and you all received an electronic copy of those calendar items. David?
Oh, sorry.
That was me.
I was. Please waive the reading of the calendar.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to approve the calendar?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kazansky. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hirsch. Any discussion or questions about the calendar? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Calendar is approved.
Next, under other business, is the 2022 to 2023 investment and board meeting schedule. We sent it out. We've made 2 changes. I believe you've received the changes as well. So this is a draft. If you have any changes that you would like to make before we make it the final schedule.
I'd just like to say, one of the things that we usually kind of compare this against is the DOE calendar, which has not been distributed to the public yet. So as soon as that is, we'll go over it and make sure there's no conflicts.
Okay.
And my guess is the September 8th is going to be the first day of school, which will not matter for most of us.
Which teachers typically meets on the first day of school?
Right, originally it was for September 1st, but we don't start until after Labor Day, so it was moved. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
And next are questions and comments from the public. Seeing none. Madam Chair.
Okay, all right, well, there is no executive session, so does anyone have anything else? Okay, then do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kazansky. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hirsch. Anyone have a problem with that? No. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? We stand adjourned. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
And the sun's out, almost.
Well,
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah, it was